Tonight I'll be discussing strategies to neutralize the threat of a walking corpse using non-ballistic methods. The emphasis being non-ballistic, by which I mean methods that do not require a projectile weapon, such as a rifle, crossbow, or a handgun. I know that this lecture series is typically very lighthearted, so I hope I don't dampen the mood with such a practical topic. But the information that I'm providing will no doubt be useful to you at some point in the future. This is the first time this information is being presented to the public in such an open forum, so I must begin with a word of caution. The methods that I'll be describing are meant to be used only against the living dead. Do not try them against family or friends, unless they're undead, and definitely do not use them against other living opponents. The techniques were specifically designed to take advantage of traits exhibited by the living dead and may not be effective against other types of opponents. All right? Then let's begin. They are known by many different names: walking plague, hell's minions, the living dead. But they all fall under the same scientific subspecies class, commonly known as the zombie. Now, in case there's any confusion, let me clarify. A zombie is a formerly human being that has become deceased, reanimated, and now exists with one sole purpose: to devour the flesh of living humans. Much has been written about, fantasized, and manipulated regarding the zombie, so I thought it would be beneficial to start by dispelling some common misconceptions. Misconception 1, zombies can run. Let's start by watching this clip. Intense, frightening, completely inaccurate. According to our research, a zombie with both legs intact moves at a steady forward pace of approximately 23 minutes per moment, slightly slower than the average human walking pace. Subjects with damage to their lower limbs move at a slightly slower pace. The more extensive the damage to the lower extremities, the slower the pace of the subject. The important point to remember here, though, is the fact that even with its lower half completely missing, a zombie will continue its relentless pursuit. So I hope this puts to rest any doubt or debate on the matter, despite what Begbie from Train Spotting would have you believe: zombies do not run. Misconception 2. Only trained soldiers, elite athletes, or martial artists can survive a zombie attack. It's been often thought that the ones who survive a war are the professional warriors. Now, while this may ring somewhat true in normal warfare, an attack of walking corpses is anything but normal. Research has shown that successful survivors of undead outbreaks come from all walks of life. You do not have to be a soldier, a professional fighter, or a master of some exotic or esoteric martial art. The best example I can give is standing before you. I have no military background. I have only a modicum of martial arts training, and according to the National Institute of Health's Body Mass Index calculator, I'm bordering on obese. Yet, here I stand, while many of my younger, fitter, more experienced colleagues have ended up as ghoul fodder. The primary reason is because I've taken the time, as have all of you tonight, to acquire the right type of knowledge to face this unique type of attacker. The right type of knowledge begins with an examination of anatomy. Now, I assume that most of you know that the only way to permanently neutralize an attacking ghoul is... Come on, people. Very good. Outstanding. destroy the brain. However, the human brain is encased in one of the most resilient structures on the human body, the skull. It's important to examine the specific areas on the skull that would be most appropriate to mount your attack. Now, instinctively, most people target the frontal and parietal regions of the head. In actuality, these are the thickest areas of bone on the skull. Much better targets are the temporal, nasal orbital, and the occipital regions, which are fragile and much more vulnerable to fracture. One secondary target you can attack is the neck. Using a bladed weapon, you can target this area for a decapitation attack. It's important to note, however, that the severed head of the zombie continues to retain the ability to bite. Another secondary attack point is the temporomandibular jaw. Striking this area will not stop a zombie, but a powerful blow can shatter and hopefully shear the jaw completely from your attacker, eliminating its ability to bite. But how will you target these areas? While there are methods that you can use with your bare hands, the best way to target these regions is with the appropriate weapon. There are 4 general classes of weapon in undead combat: long range, medium range, close quarters, and improvised weapons. Now, whenever the discussion of weapons arises, the most common question raised is, what is the best zombie neutralizing weapon? Any thoughts? Good, good. It's actually a trick question. The best weapon against the living dead is the one you have immediate access to before an attack. Now, most people will not have immediate access to a two-handed greatsword or a tomahawk. We'll focus our discussion on improvised weapons. Now, improvised weapons can be found in all parts of your life, in sporting equipment, in your garage, in your toolbox, even your own kitchen. Now, the weapon itself is not as important as is your own proficiency and your understanding of its limitations. For example, baseball bat, very common item in many households. Some of you probably have them in your homes right now. Can function as an adequate weapon, but in our research, it has a limited lifespan because it was designed to hit baseballs, not crush undead skulls. Just as important as the weapon you select is the method by which you use it. This is where technique comes into play. Now, similar to weapons, there are 4 primary classes of zombie engagement: long range, medium range, CQC, or close quarters combat, and unarmed combat. Now, in the interest of time, I'll focus on one specific range of these 4, melee combat. Melee engagement. She's obviously well protected. Melee engagements take place at a distance of approximately 2 to 3 feet between opponents. It only requires a moderate level of skill, and there's a low risk of infection, which makes this one of the most popular and common ranges to engage the undead. However, there are risks when approaching a ghoul at this distance, the most significant of which being the fatal funnel. Now, those of you with some law enforcement experience may be familiar with this term, but in relation to zombie defense, what we're describing is the situation of confronting an undead attacker from the most dangerous position directly head-on. Most people make the mistake of facing their attackers this way because why? It's how we confront human opponents. Now remember, this opponent is anything but human. You not only have to concern yourself with the zombie's bite, but also its clawing, infected hands, which at this point will be outstretched, reaching for you, looking to pull you into its open maw. The triangular sector comprised of the mouth and the 2 outstretched hands is what's known as the fatal funnel. A much better strategy is to take advantage of the zombie's limited speed and coordination to work the perimeter of your opponent. This can be done with a simple movement that we've named the Stracers technique. Same situation as before, except on the approach, you're going to sidestep or strafe to the left or to the right of your opponent, thus avoiding the fatal flank. From here, you're going to circle your opponent, exposing some of the target areas that we discussed earlier. Now, you can launch an attack from this position, but there is a small risk of being pulled in by an outstretched ghoul's hand. The best position that you can take is to continue circling around your opponent until you're completely behind it, so you can deliver a finishing blow. That actually brings us to the end of this presentation. Now, we've covered a lot of information in a very short amount of time, most of which you'll probably forget. But I hope that you retain even a small portion of what was presented, because in this age of biomanipulation, of human genome research, of super pandemic, it's not a question of whether if a zombie outbreak will occur, but when. Hopefully what I've provided will be enough for you to survive and make it safely out of Brooklyn.